everyone. We have a few folks that are starting to join, so we'll give everyone a couple of minutes. I am joined by Jay, and my name is Stacey, and we will be walking you through how the LeanLaw billing process can help to simplify your overall workflow when it comes to trust accounting. It's going to be pretty exciting, and so we'll give everyone another minute or two. I want to take a moment to express that I am very grateful for everyone for joining. I know that it's a busy week with the holiday coming up, so thank you so much for joining us today. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope we have a lot of fun.
There's some familiar names in the crowd as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
excellent. Excellent. If we've chatted before, hello. Welcome back. You get a special greeting. If we've never chatted before, hello. It's nice to meet you. All right. It is about 2 minutes after, so let's go ahead and get started. What I'd like to do first is share what exactly is our agenda today. What are we going to be doing? What are the screens that I'm going to be sharing? And what can you expect to see from your LeanLaw experience today? So we, as I mentioned, are going to be going over how the LeanLaw process supports your trust accounting. And so the tools I'm going to be using LeanLaw. I'm going to be using my email. I'm going to be logged into Confido Legal, and I am going to be logged in to QuickBooks. We are going to walk through what does it look like when you're communicating to your clients that they need to make a deposit into their trust account. We're going to be going over messaging recommendations, both for clients who you've been working with previously and are familiar with depositing funds into trust, and with clients who are brand new, and this is going to be their first trust deposit. I'm going to show you what it looks like from your perspective, what it looks like from the client's perspective, and what those payments look like once they've been received. So let's go ahead and get started. Pardon me. All right. I am sharing my screen. Can everyone see my LeanLaw? I'll take a thumbs up from Jay if we can see it. Perfect. All right. So to start, let's discuss what is the messaging that you're going to be sending to your clients while you are requesting them to make a deposit into their trust account. So for that, we are going to start by going into our LeanLaw settings by clicking on the gear icon on the top right. Once you've navigated to those settings, on the left, there's going to be an option that has a green new banner. Now, if you're using our custom invoicing, it's going to say invoice email like it does here. If you're not using our custom invoicing, one, you should reach out to us. We're happy to walk you through it. Two, it probably says email settings here. Either way, this green new bar is going to be right here, so you'll know you're in the right place. Once there, again, if you have our custom email or our custom invoices set up, you're most likely going to land on all of your templates. Make sure that you are under email settings. Now we're going to start in the invoice email tab. Now you might be wondering, Stacey, we're talking about trust requests, not invoice emails. I hear you. But one of the things that you're going to notice is our sender information and our recipient information is all logged in here. And as you go through the additional tabs, you lose the ability to customize them, including on your trust request. And so that's why we start under invoice email. So here under name sender, that's where I want to put the name of my firm. As you're aware, when you get an email, many of the times in your inbox, you're going to see the name of the person or corporation that is emailing you. What do you want your client to see? You want your client to see the name of your firm because you're a trusted source. So make sure your firm name is listed as the name sender. For carbon copy and blind carbon copy, what we recommend if you have an administrative team or a billing team or someone who works through these emails, it's good to have them listed as the carbon or the blind carbon so that they have a copy of that email being sent to the client. And then the email sender. If the client needs to reply to the email, whether they have questions, whether they want to schedule a different time, maybe they have to talk to you about something going on with their matter, this is who that email is going to go to. So again, if you have an administrative or a billing team, that would be a good place to put that here. Melissa, in this case, is the partner. She is the Schaefer's in the Allen Blanchett and Schaefer's, and so she likes to get those emails. All right, now that we have adjusted all of our sender and recipient emails, now we can go into trust request. The trust request tab is going to walk you through what does the client see when you send them an email asking them to deposit funds into their trust account. So when you start from the top, you have the option to customize your trust request subject line. We do have a couple of pre-existing options here that if these work best for your firm, you can simply select them. Alternatively, you can customize your own subject line. We have a lot of automation built into this. So if you, for example, want to say something along the lines of, please deposit trust funds for matter name. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy, just whatever works for you. What is the way you want to communicate to your client? You're going to notice that there are keyword options here that you can copy. And what happens with these keywords is the system internally will automatically update whatever is within these brackets with information from the system. So if I am working with a client and the matter name is general counsel, when I go to send that client the trust request, it is going to update with please deposit trust funds for general counsel. It will automatically update, and so you will see what your custom message is, and you will always be able to make a change. So for example, again, you can change it to client first name, please deposit funds into trust. So you can adjust that as many times as needed until you find what really works for you. From there, as you scroll down, you will be able to adjust the body of the email. I will stop for questions as soon as we're done once going through the body of the email. So in the body of the email, what you're going to see is something very similar. You're going to be able to adjust the coding, the keywords, and it will automatically include that information in the body of the email. So for example, if you're working with a corporation, say Acme, right? The client name is going to be Acme. But then say your contact at Acme is Jonathan, right? Client first name is going to be Jonathan. And so that's kind of how you can adjust your messaging depending on how personalized you want it to be. Our keywords do have a definition right here, so you'll always know what you're putting in there. All right, so I have my message here. I have my total amount, trust amount due, and my client first name, and I'm signing it with my own name as I am the responsible attorney, and I am ready to go. So those are our email settings, and I'll pause here. What sort of questions came in, Jay?
Carl Harris asks, can this be adjusted by invoice? Now to clarify, I'm not 100% sure if Carl is referring to the subject line or to the email entirely. But I think we can address both.
Absolutely. So once you're actually sending the email to the client, you will be able to make adjustments, and we will go through what that looks like next.
Gotcha. And Carl did clarify, I'm just wondering if you can change the configuration for each separate invoice.
Absolutely. And so as you're going through sending the emails, you will be able to make adjustments. Any other questions so far? Excellent. All right, so let's get started looking at what it actually looks like within LeanLaw to send these requests. I'm going to start by going to billing, and then I'm going to go into manage invoice. And you'll notice that I have a client here, biomalware. My matter is this client is always late. And so I want to make sure that I have a trust account set up for them because I want to make sure that those bills are paid timely. One of the things that I've observed after pushing this invoice into manage invoice is the amount due is $3,000, but there's only $2,000 in trust. So their trust account is not going to be able to handle paying for this in full. I'm also going to take a look at this client under trust accounts and check that out. This client has an evergreen amount. I always want them to have at least $5,000 in their trust account because, again, they always pay late. So I want them to have that money available as I'm working for them. So I want to have them pay this $3,000 and have $5,000 in the bank, but they currently only have $2,000. So I need to submit a deposit, a trust request to this client for $6,000. The way I send a trust request is in the quick action menu on the top right. It's in the plus sign icon and then the very bottom, trust request. And here is where you'll notice, oh dear, the message is blank. What happened to my beautifully crafted message? Now let me go ahead and select biomalware. And there we go. Here's the answer to this question. You can say, please deposit funds into trust, John. Always late. I'm making eye contact with you. What you're going to notice is the first name of my contact at the company did auto-populate with his first name. The company name did auto-populate here as well, and the trust deposit amount is showing as $0. Oh dear. Well, I know I want $6,000, and you can see in real time that that deposit amount updated. So whether you're asking for $6,000, $600, $6, you're going to be able to see how much are you requesting from your client at any given point. The deposit memo is what you're going to see in QuickBooks because, oh yeah, once that payment is made, we're going to make that journal entry for you. So what does that message looks like? Trust deposit from biomalware. Excellent. I am going to request those funds. Now I have requested funds from my client, and now I'm reaching out and saying, hey, did you get my email? The client might say, I didn't get your email. All right, let's take a look. I'm going to track my sent emails right here. And what you're going to notice is this trust request has been delivered. And so you will be able to see what has the client, how has the client interacted with the email. In this particular case, our client hasn't clicked on it yet. And so what I would let them know is I did send it. It's in your inbox. Double check. All right, I'll pause here for questions before we look at what it looks like when you have a brand new client who has never deposited into trust before. So, what questions do we have so far working with Biomalware Inc.?
I know that we're focusing on Biomalware Inc., but what does mixed mean in these statuses?
It's a good question. In this particular case, we've had two recipients, one of which hasn't clicked on it yet, and one of which has. And so if something is mixed, it means that some people have probably interacted with it at a different level that others have.
Yeah. And a quick extra tidbit there, with the clicked section, there's another status that is opened. So clicked means that they clicked the link that's in the email. So not only did they read the email, they clicked the link as well.
Perfect. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is I have a brand new client, Vulcan LLC. And this client, I haven't done any work for before. And they weren't referred to me by a trusted source. They were a walk-in. And so I do want a trust to be set up for this client as we're building that relationship. But if I navigate to QuickBooks, there's nothing set up for this client within QuickBooks for trust accounting. And so what do I need to do to get them a trust account within QuickBooks? Well, let's go ahead, do a trust request. I want Vulcan. And for our first trust deposit, I want $2,000. And so one of the things that you're going to notice is we have a new banner on our trust request. Our trust request now says, this is the first trust activity for the client. We will create the necessary account under the trust liability account. So you will not have to log into QuickBooks and create the trust liability account in preparation for taking a deposit. This is going to do that for you. Perfect. You can adjust who the email is going to. You can make changes here. For example, this client is brand new, which means I want to put in kind of like an update. We've introduced digital payment links. Instead, they've probably never paid any other way. So I'll just put digital payment links are included. So you can adjust your messaging here. I am going to request the funds from this client, and now we're good to go. So the next thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at what does it look like from the client's perspective. But before we jump into my email, do we have any questions? Perfect. All right. Here we go. Please deposit trust funds into your account. This is what it looks like from the client's perspective. Like I mentioned, I can see that this email came from my lawyer. I trust that I am working with this particular lawyer. Here is their logo. I am requesting $6,000 from our client, and I have included a payment link. Everything's loading. And from the client's perspective, here is what it's going to look like. Now, my client can either pay the full amount due, or they can pay another amount and just put $5,000, $4,000. They could even put in $10,000. Don't we love those clients? And they can choose to pay with a credit card or an ACH. Yes, they can make a deposit into their trust account with a credit card. This is particularly handy when you are working with those corporations who have a business credit card. And then at the end of the year, they like to cash in on all of those business credit bonuses. They can use their credit cards and the rewards associated with those credit cards to make a deposit into their trust account.
That's a win-win right there. I love that.
Excellent. My name is on the card, 12345. Card number 4242424242. 1226 123. All right, now what does the client see? The client sees that I am paying with a credit card, and they see that there is a credit card surcharging fee. And so what does that mean? For credit cards and debit cards, there is a fee per transaction. And in many states, that fee for credit cards specifically can be passed on to your client. We can double check for you whether that's something that your state allows. Now, surcharging fees cannot be passed on to the client if they're using a debit card, and they cannot be passed on to the client if they're using an ACH or same day bank transfer. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. As we go through the process, I will show you how to turn surcharging on and off because some firms maybe choose not to put that on their clients. Some firms will prefer to have that from their clients. All right, I'm going to complete the payment. Thank you for choosing us. Processing your payment. Perfect. Now, what you're going to see is $6,000 went into trust, and then that surcharging fee went into the firm's operating account. This is important because trust accounting is very strict, and we don't want to have any implication that your trust accounting isn't above board. And so any fee that is taken from processing payments does not go in the trust account. It goes into the operating account and is kept separate. We'll make this one last payment with Volcan. We'll look at the receipts and then I will pause for questions. Actually, while I'm actually processing the payment, do we have any questions?
No questions in the chat specifically, but I'm curious here. Um, there are some state regulations around passing on the fees. So how is it basically with the question, like, is it on the firm to have to research whether or not they're even allowed to pass on the fees?
Absolutely not. If that's something that you're curious about, we're happy to look into that for you either on our side or on the Confido legal side.
Yep, and we got a couple questions popping up in the chat. Elise says, is the credit card processing powered by our own credit card processing platform?
I'm sorry, by our own, meaning your firms, or by ours, LeanLaw? Okay. So the credit card would actually be processed through our partnership with Confido Legal. And so Confido Legal will actually run those payments, and you're actually going to get deposits every single day. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. All right, so we've done a couple of payments and our clients have gotten a couple of receipts. And so they can see, hey, I have made this payment, and they can keep that for their records. And so what does that look like in LeanLaw? Let me go ahead and refresh my screen. Perfect. Now, biomalware has a trust balance of 8,000. I didn't have to do anything. As soon as that client made that payment, the trust balance updated to 8,000, evergreen amount 5,000, total receivable balance 3,000. Additionally, you'll see that our new client, Volcan here, has a trust balance of 2,000. And so all of that was entered in without me having to touch anything. Aside from that, your process doesn't change. So for biomalware, we're not going to touch your trust account without you telling us to. And so you do have to come in here and say, I want to pay this from trust. Boop. Now, if you want ways to automate that and have payments or clients with a trust account always automatically pay those invoices as long as they have the positive trust balance, let us know. We can help you with that. Until then, your process stays the same. You still come in, all right, my trust balance has been updated. I am going to pay that invoice from trust. When I come into my clients, I look at my brand new clients. I go into QuickBooks. There we go. It no longer says set up an account. It says they have a balance of 2,000. So what does that look like? Here I am in QuickBooks. I'm in my chart of accounts. I am going to go down to my trust liability account. This is a test QuickBooks, so it's a little messy. Trust liabilities, excellent. And so what have we got? We have biomalware. There we go. QuickBook balance is 5,000. Why is that? Because I made that payment of $3,000 to my invoice. And so it automatically added in here. Volcan right here, 2,000. That journal entry was created for you. All right. I'm going to pause here for questions, and then we'll log into Confido Legal to see what kind of settings can we play with there. So what questions do we have?
So far, so good.
Excellent. All right, so we have walked through requesting funds from the client. What does that communication look like? How can we make sure that our client is receiving the email by tracking it? And what does it look like in QuickBooks once a deposit has been made? So next, let's discuss what are the different things you can do within Confido Legal. Well, first, you should sign in. Excellent. All right, so I am logged in, Allen, Blanchett, and Schaefer's. We are going to see that both of these payments were made. In our report sections under transactions, we are going to be able to see that $6,000 was deposited into the trust account and the surcharge fee of $180 was processed in our operating account. Our Vulcan LLC bank transfer ACH, that full 2,000 was deposited into our trust account. And so you're going to be able to see by transaction how much went into your operating, how much went into your trust. Now you might be wondering, Stacey, what if I change trust accounts? What if I have multiple trust accounts? That's an excellent question. Within LeanLaw, under QuickBooks, if this particular client has one trust account for this matter and a separate trust account for their general counsel matter, you can actually include that in Confido Legal. And so within LeanLaw, as you have this set up to go to trust account 1 and this one to go to trust account 2, Confido Legal will allow you to have multiple trust accounts. And when you say, I want to send a trust request to this client for this matter, Confido Legal will make sure that that payment link is tied to the correct trust account. But Stacey, what happens if I've already sent the payment link and then I changed my trust account? The client hasn't clicked on it yet, but I need to make sure that that payment link actually goes to my new trust account and not my old trust account. Great question. What we're going to do is we're going to go here and we have, say, this outstanding link from Jeff Jones. I'm going to click on this view edit icon, which is a magnifying glass with a plus sign in it. In this icon, I can change which account this payment link is tied to. For our test environment, we do only have one trust account, but we have two operating accounts. So I can still show you what that looks like. With multiple trust account, this edit icon is going to be reflected right here next to your trust account. You're going to be able to click it and say, nope, I don't want it to go to that one. I want it to go to that one. And then when the client clicks on it, it will go to the account you tell it to go to.
One quick caveat that I wanted to add there is because this is a demo environment and we have multiple operating, Confido will let you have multiple trust accounts, but it will only deposit to one operating account. So make sure that if you are going to be switching back and forth between operating accounts, that you are using the one you actually want the deposits to go to.
Excellent. I'll pause there for questions. I do have a couple more settings in Confido that I want to show you, but I want to make sure everybody has the option to ask questions as needed. Awesome. All right, so that's how you change which account the payment link is set to. But you might also wonder, how do I make my payment link match my firm brand? Because your branding is how you're presenting yourself to your client. Perhaps your color is not this blue, right? Maybe your color is black and green, like Allen, Blanchett, and Schaefer's. Then you can come into settings and go into your branding. You can add a logo so that when your client makes the payment, it will show your logo. And you can adjust the colors as well. So here I have a green color. You can add it in as a hex, or you can kind of move it around and you'll see that the example changes real time. And so now it's pink. If you want, you can also add in a message under the option, "Thank you for choosing Allen Blanchett and Schaefer." You can make adjustments like, oops, I had a typo in there, and you can save the changes. You can also always reset to default, and then that's going to let you start over from scratch with the Confido legal branding colors. Okay, so that's branding. Any questions?
I don't see any questions in chat, but I'm gonna share. I've shared it in a previous webinar, but I'm gonna share this horror story, I think, of paying a law firm. I think it was like summer of 2023. I had to hire an attorney for something. Couldn't find any in my area. And it was difficult to it was just difficult to get in touch with someone. So I had to hire somebody in Florida, and I ended up having to pay them, I think it was through Venmo. And so rest assured, I never went to them again because I was like, I'm getting a Zoom meeting, paying through Venmo. It didn't feel legit. Um, and then I don't know, I 0 out of 10, I would not recommend that experience. And this is, when we partnered with Confido, one of my favorite things was the branding, because, you know, a Venmo link just does not exude the confidence of a professional here, enter your payment here type of page.
Absolutely. A big piece of the Lean Align billing workflow process is meant to help reduce questions from your clients. When you send them an invoice, when you send them a trust request, we want to make sure that that communication is clear, it's concise, and it's trusted so that your client can say, I am working with this law firm. I know I'm working with this law firm. I got an email from this law firm. It has their branding, it has their colors. I am ready to make that payment without them needing to reach out and saying, hey, is this actually you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It went to my spam folder when I got that email reminder just immediately. We
absolutely.
do have a couple more questions that came in. So Elise Center, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced that first name, asks, our firm currently does not use LeanLaw to process payments. Is Confido separate from LeanLaw? And if we decide to use LeanLaw to process payments, does Confido come with a subscription, or do we need to subscribe to it separately?
That's a fantastic question. Thank you, Elise. So the answer to that is Confido Legal is a separate entity from LeanLaw that we partner with. Now, the great thing about Confido Legal is there isn't a separate subscription that you have to pay. What it involves is a per transaction fee. So what that means is if your client is paying with a credit card at 2.95% per transaction, many states, again, will let you put that surcharge and have your client pay it, or you can choose to pay that surcharge. So it can have as small of an effect on your overall firm as possible. Now, with debit cards and same-day bank transfers, which work like an ACH, there is a surcharge, again, per transaction. You do not need to pay a monthly or yearly subscription cost to use this service. If you have an application into Confido Legal and it's approved, you integrate it with LeanLaw and choose not to send payment links, you won't pay anything because those payment links aren't being used. But if your clients are interacting with them, if they're getting the email with the invoice attached, with the account summary showing, if they're getting the trust request and saying, yes, this is my law firm, oh, that's handy, I'm just going to click on that link, then that is when per transaction a surcharge is added. Now, one of the reasons that the operating account rules are so strict is because if there are fees for those transactions, that is automatically pulled out of that account every month.
And Amy had a quick note to share. Thank you, Amy. I'll add that Confido has great customer service.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I'm so glad to hear that. That's something that we definitely take very seriously. We read, we're very much in touch with our Confido partners. I talk to them every single day. So if at any point you need LeanLaw to help you out with anything, and it has to do with Confido, we're here to help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that, I want to review surcharging. So again, 2.95% for debit cards and credit cards. For credit cards, you do have the option to pass that surcharge on to your client. And you do that through your settings, firm settings, and then surcharge. If you decide, I actually don't want my clients to pay the surcharge, I'll take care of it, you uncheck it. It'll automatically save. You won't have to select a second button, or you can turn it back on just that easily. For ACH or same-day bank transfers, that is a 1% surcharge per transaction, but it caps at $30. And so if you have a bill that's $30,000, you're still only going to pay $30 for that transaction. What other questions do we have?
We do have one from Nicholas Dyer. Nicholas says, I thought branding was handled in LeanLaw QuickBooks. In other words, my invoices are already set up through QuickBooks for branding, so I'm unclear why branding is handled in Confido separate from what I've set up for other invoices.
Great question. So do you remember when we came into our emails and clicked on the link to make the payment? That is where the logo within Confido Legal comes in. And so this is a poor example because the invoice was already paid. But when you have a client who clicks on one of those payment links and you want to have the branding on the payment link, that's where you enter it in here. Is it required? No, you can absolutely have your logo on the email that they receive, on any letters that you send them, and then the payment link can not include it. That's entirely up to you. But if you want them to click on the payment link and also see a copy of your logo there, then add it in here. Perfect. What other questions do we have?
I think that's what we got so far. Just as a reminder, since Carl did bring it up in the chat as well, we are going to be sending a recording of this training once we wrap up. It might take a little bit while we finish the final edits, but it will be posted, I believe, on our blog, and also we'll share it via email.
Perfect. I also want to do a quick plug. We do have a community, and that community is called School. And what this community does is it actually has a calendar, and that calendar includes any and all webinars. There's a lot of really handy dandy ones. Jay and I tend to work together on ones including how do we help you get paid faster and increase your profits with our partnership with Confido Legal, with the LeanLaw workflow that helps reduce the amount of time you're spending. We also have one of our founding partners, Gary, is actually doing a lot of webinars with the more strategic aspects of running a law firm, including retention, including a scorecard for your firm. And so we'll include a link to that in our follow-up email as well. So if you want to join and maybe network with other law firms, definitely.
I want to give a shout out to the most recent, one of the recent topics was what happens to your legal fees when a client goes bankrupt, started by our co-founder, Gary. So by all means, if you are interested in connecting with other law firms and also just connecting with us, School is a great place to do that.
All right, so the last thing that I want to discuss really quickly, one of the things that we observed that biomalware paid $6,000 into our trust account, and they have a $180 surcharging fee that went into the operating account. So what does that look like in QuickBooks when you go to make a bank deposit? All right, so here we have 6,000 from biomalware. We have 2,000 from Volcan. And then we have 3,000 here, which is just a payment. And so that was paid from trust. But where's that 180? You had that You had that $180 surcharging fee. Where does that come in? That's going to come in and add funds to this deposit. And so I'm going to select Gravity Legal, which is the old name for Confido. Payment method is going to be Confido. It's going to go into my bank account. What is it? Operating. There we go. Checking, operating. And the total was 180. And so from there, we should be able to match everything within QuickBooks. Save. Done. All right. That was easy. I'm going to pause again. Do we have any more questions?
We do have one more question from Elise, and this may be something we can cover a little bit more in depth as we wrap this up as well. But Elise asks, I hear you talk about LeanLaw workflow. Can you briefly describe this? Is this part of a LeanLaw subscription?
Absolutely. Great question. Elise, thank you for joining. Your questions have been great. All right. So the LeanLaw workflow is included in all LeanLaw subscriptions. And so you will always have access to it. A part of it is our partnership with Confido Legal, being able to integrate payment links. Part of it is emailing the information out to your clients, and part of it is tracking those emails. So we discussed trust accounting today in our webinar, but if you remember, we actually started on the invoice email tab, which is a tab that will allow you to send an email including the invoice number to your client, with a lot of different options to customize. For me, the most powerful piece that you can customize is this account summary right here. This account summary will take the account summary from the invoice and put it in the body of the email. That's going to be super handy for clients because that means that they're not going to have to open or download the invoice to see how much they owe. They're going to be able to receive the email. It's going to have your logo on it. It's going to have your personalized message, and it's going to say, this is how much that you owe. And let's see, here's your invoice. It's going to look a bit like this. They're going to be able to see, okay, I know that I have a balance forward. I have new charges. This is how much is owed. I'm not going to have to click on either of these, but I can for my records if I want to. I'm just going to say, oh, I owe $1047.60. I'm going to click pay the balance. This reduces, again, those client questions of how much do I owe you? One of our users has actually reduced questions from 10% out of 350 emails sent. Their clients see, okay, I'm getting this. It's from my law firm. This is the amount that's due. Makes sense. I'm just going to click on pay balance. It's also useful if you're working with corporations, right? You send this to their accounts payable team. The person who receives that email is going to not have to download anything. They're just going to be able to make note. All right, this is how much is due. I'm going to send that off to my accounts payable team. They'll make sure that this gets paid. So the entire workflow is built around how can we make it as easy as possible to email invoices, get them paid, email, and adjust. Here's your invoice. Adjust the messaging. You can adjust full balance, none, both, either. We have another webinar walking through this whole thing. And so maybe we can include that in our follow-up with a link that walks you through the whole process. Did that answer your question?
I want to also add to that, Elise. We don't the LeanLaw workflow. There is no monthly fee. It's the idea is a workflow. It's to help firms financially align with their clients. So it's our goal to provide full financial transparency between a firm and their client.
All right, we have about 15 minutes left in our allotted time together. And we've gone through the whole thing. That's how easy it is. This whole process is so easy. It is designed to save you a lot of time. Question for the group. Does anybody think that they're going to start using this? Does anybody have any questions?
Elise says that they believe they will. Amy says, how do we turn on LeanLaw?
Oh, it's already on. It is already on.
For
All you have to do is go into your settings, find that green banner that says new, and pop into your email. Now, if you want to include payment links, that is something that we can send you some information on. How do you set that up? It will include an application to our Confido legal payment processing partner. It's going to be very familiar to you if you've submitted financial applications before, but they're going to be processing your client's money, and we want to make sure that we are fully protected under federal financial laws, including protecting you from any money laundering going on. And so there is an application, and we can send you the details on how that works.
And then I put it in the chat as well. Amy, for your firm specifically, it is already on. And I can set a time to also walk you through it. For anybody else that may have questions or need that a little bit more hand-holding in the setup, feel free to reach out to our support team. They will connect you with me, or you can reach out to the success team directly at success@myleanlaw.com. And I'm happy to schedule a time to get you set up with us.
Now, another question that I have for the group. How many steps is your current process?
Way too many, yep.
Yeah. Creating the journal entry, making sure money is going into the right account, reconciling it all in QuickBooks. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Any final thoughts? Questions, comments, concerns, expressions of joy?
Kitty asks, can we back up to the $6,000 payment to trust and then the $3,000 AR was paid? How does the $3,000 go from the trust account to the general account?
That's a great question.
For the and I can hop into to tackle that a bit more. So Kitty, if you are receiving the trust request specifically, it'll go into the trust account. You'll still need to physically move the funds over to the operating account. And if you are paying an invoice through trust, you'll still have to mark the invoice as paid from trust in LeanLaw. But once you mark it as paid from trust in LeanLaw, it'll create their journal entry in QuickBooks. And then all you have to do is just make sure you actually physically move the funds to the right account.
Right. Neither LeanLaw nor QuickBooks touches your actual bank account. So all of that's something that you're still in control of.
That said, that's what Stacey touched upon very briefly, was that we do have some ways to automate some trust items. If you are using Evergreen Trust Account, we do offer live trust option. We can provide you more information on that. Just let me know, Katie, and I can put your contact down. I'll send you that info. And anybody else who might be interested, happy to do so.
Excellent. All right. Well, if there are no final questions, I can let everybody out a little bit early for this holiday week. My gift to you is 10 minutes back. Thank you again so much for joining. I know this is such a busy week, and so I'm very grateful that you joined us for our webinar. I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of your week and a happy holidays.
Woo. Thank you, everybody.